Those can do so who know that they are thy servants under thy footstool. All men are too weak, Lord, and ready to give themselves over to self-love and pride. But pride was the downfall of many of the angels, so how can it not be of man? Out of thy love for thy peoples, O Creator, fill the leaders of the people with fear of thy judgment.
When the king, in 1929, introduced the January 6 dictatorship, Nikolai warned him on various occasions. The Serbian Church has existed and survived in various countries, and it still exists in Yugoslavia, which is only a state and is therefore a transient phenomenon, while the Church is eternal, he said to the king. One amusing episode in Ohrid best depicts the relationship between these two great men.
Skromny Vladichanski dvor uz samu obalu jezera.
The modest bishop's house right on the lakeside. During lunch, Tushko the cook brings the king a tray bearing a suckling pig of 1.5 kilos or maybe 2 kilos. Nikolai grabs the tray and throws the pork out of the window into the lake. Does an Orthodox king really want to eat flesh on a fast day rather than the famous Ohrid fish? The king was naturally not amused. The pork had disappeared before his very nose. They finished lunch without further exchange in a fairly tense atmosphere.
Nikolai had a sense of humour and often knew how to use it, both in conversation with people and also in some of his sermons as a means of emphasizing the force of his message. However, his contemporaries remembered him, above all, as a rare and mysterious person. Slobodan Jovanović, the famous Serbian lawyer, historian and politician, wrote this about Nikolai.
It was precisely that in him which was reserved, untouchable and mysterious that drew people to him. This was not without reason. That mysterious side of his character was a sign of those men of spiritual power that we are unable completely to understand, and only truly great people are capable of grasping. I was ill with diphtheria, 10 years old, me and my sister. Diphtheria was then almost 50% of people died of it. He came into the room, sat on the bed and gave me a little icon from the holy mountain, saying, "That's fine," and said that I would get better. And then he blessed me. And when he went out of the room, it was as though the Holy Spirit had come in and out.
The people of Ohrid loved and respected him. They knew him simply as Grandpa Bishop. Whenever the bishop was on the streets, the craftsmen stopped their work and hurried up to him for his blessing. Bishop Nikolai travelled to the Holy Mountain on church business and on to Constantinople, and also once more to America and England. In 1925, Bishop Nikolai took part, together with the Patriarch, other bishops and the King and Queen, in the translation of Niegos's relics to the restored memorial church of St. Peter on the summit of Mount Lovćen. The sermon by the famous writer of Niegos's religion left an indelible impression on all present. Nikolai linked Niegos's virtues with those of Montenegro, a country that has, through the ages, given many great men to the Serbian people. Bishop Nikolai told the enthusiastic Montenegrins that, in the troubled times that were coming, it was necessary to combine the impetuosity of Šumadija with the steadiness of the Montenegrins, combining courage with wisdom. After the death of Patriarch Dimitrie, instead of, as many people expected, Nikolai's accession to the patriarchal throne, Varnava was elected patriarch. The dioceses of Ohrid and Bitol were combined, and thus Nikolai became the bishop of a far larger diocese. In Bitol, where a seminary had earlier been begun jointly with Metropolitan Iosif of Skopje, a public kitchen was opened for the very many poor people, then Bogdai, God's gift, for abandoned children, which he visited almost every day. The seminary in Bitol was truly a nursery for future Orthodox saints and great theologians. The bishop spent his free time in writing and prayer, sleeping very little. During his time in southern Serbia, new books were published. Homilies. His popular major work, the Prologue from Ohrid, Missionary Letters, The Faith of Educated Men, a book of poems, The Spiritual Lyre, then War and the Bible, Symbols and Signs, Nomologia, The King's Vow. On every book there was to be seen the rosette from Kalinic, which speaks to us of what was pulling at the bishop's heartstrings. The bishop worked in Ohrid and Bitol on the restoring of old and famous monasteries. Then, while he was still Bishop of Ohrid, he began the building of a church in his birthplace, Lelic. "Build it if you have the cash," it said that his realist father, Dragomir, told him when Nikolai declared his intention. "The villagers will help me," was Nikolai's reply.
Look only to yourself, son. Don't put me in the position of having to sell the little land I have to pay off your debts.
But Nikolai really was not that interested in money. When he travelled from Ohrid with bags full of money for the building of the church, collected from the royalties on his books published in Serbia and in other countries, and also donations from admirers at home and abroad, he gave generously as he went to anyone who turned to him for help. His companions were always concerned that there would be nothing left for the intended goal. The church in Lelic was, however, completed in 1929.
So, this is Bishop Nikolai's room and bed, on which he rested when he came to Lelic.
He returned to Žiča in 1934 as administrator, and in 1936 was once again appointed bishop of St. Sava's most significant diocese.
Every morning, the coachman set out from Žiča with a carriage and arrived at exactly 6 o'clock to find the bishop already coming down the steps. Each morning, whether in winter or summer, we went to Žiča, every day without fail. At that time, he had no other vehicle, and never traveled in any other.